The Galactic Academy's elite class of warrior students disembarked onto Earth with the grace and arrogance of conquerors. Their boots crunched down onto forest soil as they scanned the primitive terrain with analytical indifference. Trees, moss, unfiltered oxygen. The planet looked soft, undeveloped. A backwater rock spared by evolution's generosity. Gravity's weak, one scoffed. Feels like walking through dreams. Another tapped his helmet, filtering out the ambient birdsong. Noise pollution. Unregulated fauna. Uncivilized. Commander Exorkin surveyed the group with arms crossed. His battle scars pulsed faintly beneath his armor, illuminated by embedded biostrips. Observation only. Record report, but do not provoke the locals, he growled. The students grunted their acknowledgement. A rickety Earth tour bus rolled up, the door screeching open. Out stepped a human female wearing a sweatshirt with a coffee stain and sunglasses pushed into messy hair. She looked like someone who hadn't feared death in a long time, and wouldn't start today. "Welcome to Earth, warriors," she said, her voice dry as desert heat. "I'm Ellie. Call me your guide, babysitter, or the reason you don't get eaten by a bear." No one laughed. She smiled anyway. Riznax, the Academy's undefeated champion, stepped forward. Towering, gleaming with trophies etched into his chest plate, he flexed one four-fingered hand. "This world is weak. Your creatures flee at scent. Your weapons are obsolete." Ellie sipped her coffee. "Cool story. You ever met a raccoon?" Riznax frowned. "Eh, what?" She turned without answering. "Bus leaves in 2 minutes. I suggest you buckle up and keep your limbs inside. This ain't a simulation." As they loaded in, one student yelped and slapped at something crawling on his thigh. A tiny spider scurried across the floor, causing half the class to instinctively activate personal shields. Ellie leaned over, calmly scooped it up, and flicked it out the window. "Relax," she said, settling into the driver's seat. "That one's harmless." "Probably." The alien stared, disturbed. Sari's, quietest among them, watched Ellie closely. Human. Unarmored. Yet she held the 8-legged creature like it was nothing. That same spider, if unleashed in the Academy dormitories, would cause full lockdown protocols. And she just flicked it. Barehanded. The road twisted through pine-covered hills. The students sat stiff, analyzing everything: the unpaved trails, scattered wildlife, open air with no force field buffer. Ellie drove one-handed, humming to herself, eyes occasionally flicking to the rearview mirror with faint amusement. "You know," she said casually, "Earth's been called a death world by more than a few travelers. Not official or anything, but let's just say nature here doesn't always play nice." Exorkin scoffed. "Your planet's history suggests more deaths by your own species than by environment." "True," she said. "But those are just the ones with paperwork." A pause followed. She grinned. "The wild stuff? It doesn't ask permission." The bus rumbled into a clearing. "Camp night," Ellie said. "Don't worry, I've only had 2 groups go missing in these woods." "Kidding." "Mostly." The students disembarked, forming a semicircle while Ellie set up her modest camp with swift, practiced motions. They watched in silence, unsure what unnerved them more, her humor, or the ease with which she moved among a wilderness they could barely interpret. Saris kept glancing at the trees, then at Ellie. Something didn't add up. According to the planetary briefing, humans were physically inferior. Soft bones. Slow reflexes. But this one walked like a predator among children. Riznax clomped up behind her, gesturing at her compact fire starter tool. "Primitive," he sneered. "We produce thermal fields from palm emitters. Why still use friction?" "Because it works," Ellie replied, flicking the switch. A flame hissed to life. "And because some of us like feeling the danger." Her eyes met his. Not hostile. Just steady. He turned away. Later, around the fire, Ellie told stories. Ghost tales from Appalachian forests, real-life accounts of hikers vanishing without a trace, animals showing intelligence beyond what should be possible. The aliens pretended not to be disturbed, but their translated vitals said otherwise. Even Exorkin shifted once. Saris didn't speak. She watched Ellie's hands instead, the way they moved, the way she gestured. Strong, steady, bare. No armor. No weapons. Just skin and presence. And they all still remembered how she held that spider like it was nothing. Ellie leaned back, staring up at the stars. Funny, she said quietly. So many species come here expecting lasers and war beasts. But it's the little things that get you. Poison ivy. Parasites. Insects. One wrong step and Mother Earth reminds you she doesn't care what planet you're from. She chuckled, not realizing half of them were now scanning the ground with tactical overlays. Anyway, she said, tossing another stick on the fire. Sleep tight. You'll want to be rested for tomorrow. The students turned in, unease crawling in behind their bravado. They had landed on what they believed was a primitive world. But the human didn't act like prey. She acted like she'd survived every predator. And that, more than anything, made them nervous. Riznex rose first. His internal clock was synced to galactic military cycles, and despite the unfamiliar air, he felt strong. He stretched beneath the dawn sky, armor hissing as joints realigned. The Earth night had passed uneventfully, disappointingly so. He expected challenge. Conflict. Something worth his stature. He crouched to inspect a cluster of native plants when something tickled his forearm. He looked down. A spider, less than a coin's width, crawled across his gauntlet. For a half-second he smirked. Then the creature slipped between armor plates and bit. He flinched. Mild pain. Then convulsed. Riznex collapsed, limb seizing. His mouth opened but no sound emerged. The Academy's most decorated warrior lay twitching in the dirt like a broken automaton. His visor blinked red alerts. Vital systems crashing. Neurofeedback spiraling. Saris was the first to reach him, dropping to one knee with her scanner. The others shouted over each other, trying to stabilize him, shielding their limbs from invisible threats. His bio-readout spiked: paralysis, nervous shock, internal flooding of neural transmitters. But no actual poison detected. No toxins? One shouted. Then what is it? A hologram replayed the last 3 seconds, slow motion. The spider. The bite. Then the cascade. Saris's voice was steady. Venom interacted with his nervous system. Not lethal. But our species reacts differently. Differently? Exorkin demanded. Like dumping acid into a circuit board. Panic rose. Armor sealed. Scanners blazed to life. 10 warriors, trained for black hole sieges, now froze at the possibility of stepping on invisible death. Ellie approached, cradling a mug, completely unaware, or uninterested, in the crisis. What's going on? She asked casually. They backed away, pointing toward Riznex's shaking form. He was attacked by one of your creatures. She walked over, crouched, and peeked under his arm. What, that little jumper? She reached into the grass, lifted the spider between 2 fingers. The entire group recoiled. She raised an eyebrow. This guy? Exorkin snapped. Put it down! That thing nearly killed our best combatant. She held it in the light. This? A Parson spider. Nasty bite, yeah? But not deadly. Maybe makes your hand swell. You do not understand. He is paralyzed. Ellie blinked. From this? Saris stepped forward. We think your species has built resistance. We haven't. It's overloading our systems. Ellie slowly set the spider down. Huh. Someone whispered. There could be millions of them. There are, she confirmed. That's why you shake out your shoes. That statement caused a full system recalibration across half the team. Scanners retarget every tree, patch of dirt, leaf. One student asked quietly if Earth's population had adapted through evolutionary pressure. Another muttered, This planet is a death maze disguised as a vacation. Ellie walked over to Riznex, who had stopped convulsing but now whimpered in static broken tones. "He'll be fine," she said. "I've seen tourists get stung by fire ants. They cry harder." Fire ants. The translator didn't know whether to classify that as flora or fauna. One student scanned a nearby anthill. "They swarm. They inject venom. They bite and sting simultaneously?" Someone dry heaved. Saris noticed Ellie was drinking something again. "What is in your cup?" "Coffee. Is it defensive in nature?" Ellie smirked. "Only emotionally." Back near the tents, Exorkin opened a communication window. "Redefine priority classification, Earth's biosphere. Elevate threat rating. Category Omega. Recommend quarantine protocols post-visit." One student muttered, "How do humans even survive?" Ellie overheard. "Bug spray, mostly. And common sense. Also, yelling sometimes works." As the group began disassembling the camp, still jumpy, Ellie rolled up the tent tarps with bare hands. A beetle scuttled over her wrist, and she flicked it off without looking. Saris froze, watching. "Do you have no fear of them?" she asked. "Of bugs?" Ellie shrugged. "Sure. They creep me out sometimes. But if I lost it every time a spider showed up in the shower, I'd never get anything done." "You hold death in your hands." Ellie laughed. "It's just Earth. It's always trying to kill you. Eventually you'd get used to it." Back on the bus, the atmosphere had shifted. No one mocked Earth now. Every shadow, every leaf, held menace. Riznax, now in recovery mode, sat slumped in a seat while medbots gently pulsed over his limbs. His pride, however, was in critical condition. "I defeated a sand leviathan," he rasped, "and was undone by legs." Ellie drove without comment, but Saris kept watching her reflection in the mirror. It wasn't just the calm. It was the comfort in chaos. The casual acceptance of danger as background noise. A human trait, perhaps. Or something specific to this one. She wanted to ask why Ellie wasn't afraid. Or if she had ever been. But the words wouldn't come. Ellie suddenly spoke. "You know," she said, "you guys act like this world is out to get you." "It is," Saris said. Ellie smiled faintly. "Maybe. But that's the fun of it." No one responded. But somewhere behind them, a small spider spun a web from tree to tree, unaware it had just altered the perception of an entire galactic civilization. They arrived at the wildlife reserve just before midday. A dense forest wrapped around them with a quiet that felt unnatural to the alien students. Every crack of a twig made someone flinch. What had begun as a field trip now felt like a reconnaissance mission into hostile territory. Ellie hopped out of the bus and stretched like it was any other Tuesday. "All right, team. This is one of our biodiversity hotspots. Try not to scream if something lands on you. It's usually not fatal." No one laughed. Not anymore. One student had equipped a full environmental containment suit. Another kept scanning for microaggressors, a newly coined term in their system for Earth's insect population. Every time something buzzed, at least one combat-grade shield flared to life. Ellie knelt near a small cluster of mushrooms. "These'll melt your kidneys if you eat them. Pretty though, right?" Exorcan's face darkened. "Why does this planet tolerate such hazards?" Ellie shrugged. "It doesn't care what you tolerate. It just is." Saris stayed silent, but her eyes never left Ellie. The more she observed, the clearer it became. Humans didn't just survive Earth. They didn't just endure it. They belonged to it. Every species here operated on silent violence. Humans smiled through it. Played games in it. Let their children roll in the grass that could hide fangs or thorns. They reached a wooden trail, half-rotted but still functional. Ellie walked it confidently. "Keep your eyes open," she said. "You might see a bear." Someone stumbled. "A what?" She waved a hand. "Big. Furry. Curious. Just don't run." The word bear rippled through the group like a virus. Risk analyses updated. Fear algorithms pinged. Saris walked a little closer to Ellie now. You knew this trip would terrify us. Ellie tilted her head. I assumed your academy trained you to handle worse. We have fought fleets. Breached neutron fortresses. Neat. Ever seen a Wolverine on cocaine? The translation paused. That was a joke, Ellie clarified. They passed an old wooden sign with faded print. Warning, venomous snakes in area. All 10 helmets turned toward her. Also not a joke, she added. The group stopped when they saw a bird tear into a lizard and fly off with half its body. One student muttered, This planet was designed by a mad god. Nope, Ellie said. Just millions of years of being too stubborn to die. They reached a small clearing with a dilapidated cabin. Ellie pushed open the door, let it creak wide. We'll break here. You'll want water, trust me. One student declined. This structure lacks shielding. Ellie pulled out a jug and took a long drink. So does the forest. Inside, the cabin was dusty but intact. As they settled, one student asked softly, What do your people fear? She paused, caught off guard. You mean here? On Earth? Saris watched her carefully. Ellie thought about it. House fires. Losing people. Cancer. Taxes. Not spiders? Ellie smirked. Look, I hate spiders. But you can't let fear run your life. Then how do you live among all this? Saris gestured outside. Every inch of this world could kill you. Ellie looked out through the broken glass window. We just get used to the fact that death is part of the scenery. Doesn't mean you stop walking the trail. A wasp buzzed by the window. 3 energy shields activated instantly. Ellie ignored it. Saris turned away, mind racing. They were the apex in their galaxy. Their warriors could tear steel with bare hands. But a single unregistered insect had dropped their best. And this human, soft, unarmored, was unshaken. That wasn't ignorance. That was adapted dominance. Ellie checked her watch. All right. Moving out in 10. You're doing great, by the way. No one screamed in the last hour. Riznax, still groggy but recovering, limped to the edge of the group. I fought a plasma kraken once, he muttered. It didn't feel this humiliating. Ellie handed him a granola bar. Eat. Sugar helps. He took it. The wrapper confused him. Exorkin pulled Saris aside. We must escalate this report. Earth is not a backwater. It's a crucible. Saris nodded. And humans, they're not apex by accident. He grunted. They evolved with danger. Not above it. She glanced at Ellie again. That might make them the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. As they walked back through the forest, more students began walking nearer to Ellie, as if her calm radiated a kind of psychic protection. She pointed out native tracks, foxes, coyotes, raccoons. They listened like it was gospel. Saris caught herself watching Ellie's every step, how she moved, how she scanned her surroundings with lazy confidence. She wasn't oblivious, she was practiced. Her awareness was buried deep in instinct. The group stepped around a log. Beneath it, another spider. No one screamed this time. They watched silently as it crawled away. Ellie raised a brow. Progress. No one responded, but a few looked just a little less rigid. The human had become their unofficial pack leader. And none of them were laughing anymore. The debrief room was sterile, lit by pale blue lighting that flickered every few seconds, a design meant to mimic calm. No one felt calm. Back aboard the Galactic Academy cruiser, the students sat in a semicircle while the holographic briefing table loaded. The topic displayed, Class Trip Report, Sol 3, Terrestrial Hazard World. Risk rating, upgraded from low to severe. Instructor Veltor entered, arms clasped behind his back. I've reviewed your logs. Clarify something for me. One spider neutralized your top warrior? Riznax didn't lift his head. Yes. And this spider was how large? Smaller than my eye. The instructor blinked twice. And its venom was lethal? Exorkin responded. No. Just incompatible. Our nervous systems are highly reactive to its neurochemicals. Fascinating, Veltor muttered. So a random, unsentient insect can incapacitate one of our elite. There was silence. He turned to Saris. Explain why you labeled this species as apex level. Saris didn't hesitate. Humans evolved on a planet that actively tries to kill them at all times. They do not dominate Earth. They endure it. They have no natural armor. No claws. No venom. And yet they persist. Veltor folded his arms. So they survive purely through technology? No, Saris said. Through stubbornness. Adaptation. Psychological tolerance for chaos. Their young are taught not to scream when insects crawl on them. Their adults walk barefoot in grass hiding vipers. They farm bees that could sting them to death. They fear, but they function. Veltor looked amused. That hardly makes them a military threat. They didn't flinch when one of us dropped. Exorken added. They kept going. Kept leading. Veltor scoffed. And yet your field report singles out one human as particularly instructive. Saris hesitated. Ellie. Veltor brought up a projection of her, mid-sentence, laughing, holding a spider between her fingers. This one? No one spoke. She seems unimpressive. Saris's tone sharpened. She walked through that world as if it were home. Because it was. That's what makes her terrifying. Veltor raised a brow. You're telling me a teacher frightens you? No, Saris said. She humbles me. The room fell silent again. Veltor slowly circled the table. So what is your tactical conclusion? Should Sol 3 be avoided? Or conquered? Riznax muttered. Neither. It should be respected. Veltor turned toward him. Because of spiders? Because of humans. The instructor leaned back. Explain. They've built homes beside lava pits. They live near fault lines. They surf hurricanes. They play with predators. Every threat they face becomes sport, science, or story. They don't just adapt, they make danger part of their culture. Veltor tapped his fingers. You are soldiers. You should not be impressed by romantic chaos. Saris stood. It's not romance. It's strategy. They don't neutralize threat, they normalize it. That makes them psychologically unbreakable. Veltor narrowed his eyes. Then would you fight them? Saris answered without flinching. Only if I wanted to lose. A long silence followed. Veltor finally spoke. Final recommendations? Exorken said. All cadets should train in Earth environments. Saris nodded. Study human resilience. Learn from their ecology. Do not mistake their friendliness for fragility. Riznax added. And keep spiders off the transport manifests. Veltor finally smiled. That last part is approved. The room let out a breath. But Saris remained standing deep in thought. Veltor noticed. Something else? She nodded slowly. We assumed strength was size. Power. Technology. Earth redefined it. I believe the greatest strength is persistence in proximity to death. No fear. Just focus. That is humanity. Veltor seemed to genuinely consider her words. Then, surprisingly, he dismissed them all early. As the students filed out, Saris lingered. Outside the debrief room, she opened her personal log and dictated in a low voice. Observation complete. Sol 3 is not a weak world. It is a proving ground. And humans, they are its native weapon. She paused. I watched a woman smile at a spider that felled a warrior. She didn't just survive the moment. She owned it. I felt something in that moment. Another pause. Respect. And maybe fear. And maybe something else I do not yet have a word for. The recording ended. Somewhere deep in the archives of the Galactic Academy, her log was filed, indexed under Species Psychological Threat Assessment, Humanity. The summary read only 5 words. Never corner an Earthling. Ever.